So, hi everyone. I'm pretty sure I'm live. Wave to me if you can hear me. Everything says I'm live. Anyway, if you don't know who I am the Arty Dans, and you are watching Shockmania. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the first of what I hope will be a many live shows with a special guest of mine. Now, you may have seen the thumbnail, and you may have seen a silhouette on the thumbnail that said special guest, and you're thinking, who could it be? I'm telling you who it could be. It's a gentleman called Mr. Ned Knight. And now I'm about to introduce him. Ned, welcome to Shockmania Live.
Oh, snap. That's me.
That is you, sir.
Hi. Hey. Hello, Arty.
Hello. Tell me a bit about yourself, Ned.
Well, so my name is Ned, and I like horror movies. Go figure, right? Found myself drifting to your channel. You popped me into a whole new world that I really wasn't familiar with a lot of Eastern horror movie genres type stuff, Indonesia, Thailand, of course, J horror, Korean stuff. Some stuff I had some familiarity with, but I was able to get hold of a lot of gems. And then I soon realized there might have been a bit of a cultural bias because you had yet seen the two fantastic movies out of Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Oh,
felt
yeah.
it upon myself to introduce myself to you so I could expand your horizon into what else is out there.
So the two movies were Terrified and When Evil Lurks. And
Yeah.
they were outstanding. Now, I was a bigger fan of Terrified than When Evil Lurks. I loved the concept of it. But they were both outstanding in their own rights. And I'm so glad that you introduced me to them. So thank you very much for that. Now, I want to know a bit, Ned, what have you been watching this week?
So this week I dialed up a couple movies. I like to mine Shudder. Shudder is just a treasure trove of horror movies that a lot of them can be low budget fare. There's a lot of conventional stuff that everybody knows of. But I like to kind of, like going to your channel, discovering things that maybe people haven't heard of or haven't seen or haven't been popularized. Because the great thing about horror is that it most horror movies are not big budget productions, and without drifting too far off the rails, we know big budget production movies really haven't been fantastic lately,
No, they
which
haven't.
is why I'm thankful for horror. So
Absolutely.
let's see, I dialed up a real interesting one called The Vordelak. It's a 2023 French movie, and it's a time period movie that takes place like right around, I think, 15th century French. I'm sure the chat's gonna correct me on that one. Um, but it's basically an emissary of the king, France,
Mhm.
is finding himself lost in the woods and takes refuge in a home where the patriarch has a bit of vampirism,
Oh, the vampire movie. Oh, okay.
and it's a trip. I almost gave up on it already, but curiosity got the best of me to push through, and I have to say it ended. It stuck the landing. But if somebody goes into it, or somebody might know of it, there's going to be a moment when you're introduced to the patriarch that might just throw you off. And I'm not going to spoil it.
All right. Well,
And
if
if you
Lyle was
Google it,
here,
you'll find out.
Lyle was
But it
here, he'd
happens
tell you
early
how
in the
much I
movie.
hate vampire movies. Absolutely hate them. And that actually reminds me, if anyone is watching and wants to leave a comment, please do that, and we will have a chat about it too. So you watched The Bordeaux. Is there anything else?
Yeah, so the Bordelak. I watched also
Well,
the Convent, which is many movies that have that kind of a name. This is a
mm,
2024 Spanish movie, and that's a hard pass.
okay,
Um,
good.
I thought I was going to go somewhere, and I don't know. It led to some pretty severe heavy messaging, and it didn't go where I wanted it to go. But if somebody's looking for some behind the scenes all women's convent, um, loneliness get along session, it's in there.
Oh, that kind of
Um,
movie, eh?
but it's I mean, but we're talking, all ages, all sizes, all types. So
Ah, well,
there's no
there's an
ABN
audience.
women in this movie.
There is an audience for that. I watched the two movies that we're going to be discussing on tonight's show, and I don't think we should waste any time anymore. I think, not that I'm saying we wasted time. Let me take that back. I hope I didn't upset you there. We're certainly not wasting time, but I think we should go straight into the first discussion of tonight. What do you reckon? Sounds
Yeah,
good?
man. I'm excited to talk about it.
Beautiful. And that is this film. Nope, wrong screen, Dan. See, this is what happens when you go live. You make a little bit of mistakes. This one, The Monkey. We both looked at The Monkey during the week. Now, I'll give you a quick synopsis of what I think The Monkey was about. Now, there's no guarantee that my synopsis is going to be accurate, but anyway, let's go. So, The Monkey seems to be about two twins who find a play monkey drumming toy in their father's belongings. Their father seems to be some kind of world traveler who's abandoned their mother for a younger model, or so she says in the movie. Hello, Lyle is in the house, by the way, and he has dropped his first comment of the evening. In this movie, the boys find out that every time they twist the back of the monkey and it starts to play a tune, someone around them dies, except they can't control who dies. So the boys decide that they need to get rid of this monkey before it wipes out their whole family. Fast forward, it appears to be 25 years later, and one of the brothers is still trying to get over the fact of this monkey's existence when he finds out that their aunt, who they lived with after their mother died, has died as well, and that the monkey may be floating around in someone else's possession. Someone has found the monkey, and someone has been turning the back of the monkey, and residents of a town seem to be constantly dying. So this man must find who has found the monkey and stop it. Now, how was my synopsis there, Ned?
On point.
Beautiful.
That's why I had you do it.
Don't worry, you're doing the next one. You are doing the next one. Now, it's not just you and me's opinion that I want, because it is important about what we think, but also if you are in the chat and I see you there, Lyle, and you have seen the monkey, please drop a comment below as well. But first, Ned, I want to know your thoughts about this film.
So I was aware of the monkey's concept, and I knew you can just tell right from the trailer pretty much what you're signing on for. The trailer does not disguise that this is going to be a bit of a splatterfest, and it gave off the vibes of Final Destination. And I was wondering if we're going to see some one of those, rubric contraptions where just bizarre manifestations of death sequences are going to happen. Now, I will say I was um, delightfully surprised how much I enjoyed it. And I'm going to say this up at the start. This is a comedy with gore and suspense and thrilling type moments, but it is a comedy first.
It is a
And
comedy.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
The opening scene threw me off, completely threw me off, with the comedy element of it. And I actually wasn't sure what the hell I was watching most of the time in this movie, whether I was watching a movie that was completely self-aware that it was a comedy, or if it was an unintentional comedy. Because there are moments in that film that are so obtuse, so ridiculous, that I'm sitting there thinking, everyone must be on the joke. And if they are, why am I not on the joke?
So that opening scene, exactly how you just framed it. And for those of you who know the opening scene, not intention trying to be punny, but it reeled me in. And it was when it started doing the reeling that I said, all right, let's go. I'm here for this.
Fair enough.
I mean, Adam Scott is one hand. The fact that Adam Scott jumps in, I didn't know he was in here. But then seeing Adam Scott said, okay, this might be something. Let's see where this goes. Because he was also in uh, uh, Krampus or Krampus, which is about the anti-Santa Claus folklore.
Let me have a look.
So he's done some
Krampus,
off
yes.
the wall type stuff like that. He's not just known for just comedies. And Parks and Rec is probably where he's most famous known for that TV series. Um, but I was there for it. And I will say this, and I've done some retrospect since watching it. And I don't know, are we going to spoiler territory, Dan, or are we just going to first just do cover synopsis here?
Well, I'm mindful that Lyle hasn't seen it yet, but so Lyle, I'm going to let you decide whether we can spoil it or not. So you leave a comment below, and then Ned and I will wait for your response. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I've just realized who the director is, and he did direct Longlegs, and I absolutely adored Longlegs. And
I
so
have to see that next.
I should have realized what kind of movie I was getting. Had I actually made that link beforehand, I realized that we would have been getting a self-aware comedy. Yes.
All right, so Osgood Perkins is the director, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, son of Anthony Perkins. And I, after watching the movie, so I'd already basically given my verdict. Um, I've since gained an additional appreciation for it. So one thing that the movie does, without spoilers, is it gives some appropriate nods to the Stephen King short story from the Skeleton Crew titled The Monkey. And the short story is he's waiting for free streaming.
There you go.
Okay.
You are free to spoil the movie. There you go.
It gives great nods, and particularly, I mean, one is a character in the movie called Annie Wilkes, the babysitter, his character from Misery, and also a teacher's name is Miss Torrance, which is the surname Jack Torrance from Arty, from Stephen
Man,
King.
don't put me under pressure like that. I will never remember.
Oh, I'm gonna do it. I want you to be uncomfortable.
Lyle, help me out, please.
Lyle,
my
you
brain
figured it
doesn't
out
work.
for him. I'm gonna go ahead. You figure out what Jack Torrance is from. Chad, help out Arty. So I saw this quote while Artie's waiting to get rescued. I saw this quote and I said, I love this. I love this director. Um, Osgood Perkins revealed his approach to the material.
Do you
I
have
took
something you want to
liberties
show
like
for
a
this, by the way?
motherfucker. Sorry?
Do you have something you want to show for this, by the way?
No. I'll get
No,
into that.
no.
I
Okay.
took liberties like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
The studio, had a very serious script. There you go, Lyle.
Thank you, Lyle.
The studio had a very serious script. Very serious. I felt it was too serious. I told them, this doesn't work for me. The thing with this toy monkey is that people around it all die in insane ways. So so basically he took full creative control over it. And I'm gonna tell everybody right now, that's why this is objectively a good movie. Now, it might not be to your liking. It was objectively a good movie because, and it got delivered this way because one person had sole control, or not sole control. Of course, it takes a village. But Osgood Perkins said, I'm going to make this movie my way. And he's the writer and director of it. And he did it. He gave you his vision. So you could see there was an attempt at studio interference, and he did his own thing. And that's why it works for me.
So I will admit that by the end of the film, I actually really did enjoy it. Really did enjoy it. And there were a couple of death scenes that I really loved. So I loved the babysitter death scene in the teppanyaki restaurant, which I thought was quite hilarious. But also the at the motel, the lady in the swimming pool when she just like that was very unexpected.
And that was the least realistic instance because how does that relate to what was going on in the town? where he's in a hotel. And I'm like, this, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, come on. Now, why would she, random person, hit the pool and, okay, that was an epic death scene. I don't care why it happened.
Absolutely epic. Loved it. Absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. So do you know what I'm just slow with? That realizing that both boys played double roles. So the boys who played the younger sons were double rolled, and the bloke who played the Theo James, who played the older versions of them, was double rolled. And I
That's
love
true.
it when
I
actor
thought
plays
they were
double
just,
rolled.
I thought they were different actors, Dan.
Says here, according to TMDB, it says Theo played both Hal and Bill.
Yeah, Theo James did. But the younger versions were played by two different actors, I believe.
Ooh, it says here, Christian Coventry plays young Hal and young Bill. Ooh.
This I love it. Let's spa. Let's see
I'm,
whose resources is.
I'm going to go back to TMDB and reference what I see here.
I see Christian Convery played young Hal and Colin O'Brien played Petey.
Yeah, Petey. Petey's his son, remember? Petey's his Hal's son.
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
All right, and that makes more sense because Petey's the son of Hal in the book. I just looked at their side by sides. Okay,
And I got to say, I loved
well
Petey
done.
as a character. Thought he was great. Thought Elijah Wood's short cameo was hilarious. Now, I thought, now
Well
this
done.
is really stupid, old fashioned Dan's brain from the end of 1990s here. I thought when we first met the auntie with those glasses on, I swear to God that was Amanda Plummer. And then when it cut to the uncle, I'm like, that's Bruce Campbell. Because it looked like Bubba Hotep Bruce Campbell, right?
Bubba Hotep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that
Just
movie.
looking at this, going, how the hell does they got? How's Bruce Campbell look so young, and how's Amanda Plummer still look so young? Then realized it was not either
Yeah,
of those two actors. So my mind's still sitting back in the late 1990s there.
they're very. All the characters in there are very Stephen Kingish. I'll tell you, my favorite scene wasn't
Mm.
even a death scene. It was a
Oh,
very subtle scene. It had me snickering to myself in the dark. Was when um, Petey was walking there. The realtor who was showing the house and bringing Hal up into the second floor right before her demise.
oh yeah,
And
yeah.
Petey is in the downstairs living room. And he's just kind of walking and he's looking very just perplexed. And then the camera pans back and you can notice there is a scorch trail on the ceiling right above his head, which is of course from Aunt Ida who ran out of the house with her head on fire. It was such a brilliant little subtle background. It didn't,
Easter egg.
it didn't need to be there, but just a
Yeah.
fine touch on that was just chef's kiss.
Oh, I've definitely missed that bit. I apologize in advance.
Oh,
Now, Lyle's asked about the asylum. He's calling it a knockbuster. I would call it very much a mockbuster, a good time monkey, which I did a preview of, by the way, and it looks to be just a slasher film. But I think it could be worth a watch maybe sometime in the future. Maybe we can talk about that one in the future if we ever do see it.
I'm not opposed. Do you want me to do a this quick article about Osgood
Yes, please.
Perkins and why I'm dialing up long legs later
Yes,
this week?
please. Let's have a look at this.
Okay, so this is an article from Variety that I stumbled upon. Osgood Perkins making the monkey with guts cannons, gallons of blood, and a personal touch.
Oh, chef's kiss.
And of course, that's Tatiana Maslany, who has been in great everything except for one thing she did. We don't need to go
What was
into.
that?
It was some kind of a character she portrayed from a comic book that appeared on a streaming service that I'm not going to say anything else about.
Right. I don't watch shows like that, so I don't know. And I've just clicked and had a look, and
Best.
now I know this person is. So yeah, okay.
All
Yep.
right. So I'm going to go into essentially what he felt really kind of down here, but this made me fall in love with him. You can't worry about offending an audience. You can't focus on honoring it too closely. There's no pandering going on. There's no timid storytelling. You have to have the guts to execute it. And you mean that both physically and though literally and metaphorically. So he
And
is again the son of Anthony Perkins,
mhm.
who was actually a closet homosexual, interestingly enough, and his mother, Barry Berenson, died as a passenger of the first flight that struck the towers on September 11th,
Wow.
2001.
Oh
And it
wow.
was she died on the eve of the anniversary of his father's death. So the article basically explains how he was saying how who can deal with bizarre death, movie about bizarre deaths better than I can. And he was just going to go into it and have fun with it and says, you know what? And this is a theme in the movie where everybody has a time to die
Yeah.
and it's only a matter of time and there are multiple characters that say it. So you can tell this is and this make no mistake, this is an homage to the short story by Stephen King. But with Perkins twisting on it because the short story, the deaths are more hit by a drunk driver.
Hmm.
Um, However, there's two super bizarre deaths, and guess what? They're both brain aneurysms. The mom
The
still dies
mother.
of a brain aneurysm, and so does his uncle's dog.
Who else?
Hal's uncle's dog, because he goes to live with the uncle Chip and his aunt Ida. But that's not in the movie. That's in the story.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I don't recall it. A dog. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much just really what I just wanted to, of course, cite the article. But it's a pretty good read. Um, I love the fact it was only made for $10 million, which is really chump change in um, Hollywood land. I think the studio was
Ah, not Atomic
Atomic
Monster.
Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think 10 mil is a great budget for a horror film in the US, especially once you've factored in all your unions and stuff like that, because that really firmly plants it in the creative territory, and that also means that there's a less emphasis on wanting to go down the CGI route and trying to get more practical effects. I'm a sucker for practical effects. I think you know this, right?
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
I I don't like this thing in horror that we can just do it with CGI. So recently I watched an Indonesian film called Hide and Seek. Well, that's the English title. And there's the bit where the monster will eat humans, and it's all done via CGI, and it looks awful. It takes you really out of the scene. But when Osgood decides, now we know that when the woman explodes in the pool, I'm there's a fair bit of CGI in that. I'm not naive enough to think that that was all done practically, but a lot of the other stuff was done practically, and that's what I really
That was
liked about it.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Imagine all the takes it would have taken to get that right.
well,
If it was
depending
done
on your budget, you
practically.
might not have too many takes. So yeah, yeah, and and
Um,
and this is what
so
CGI has done. It's ruined the fact that they can't do too many takes. Yeah, oh, if you've stuffed it up, just fix it in post. Don't like
preach.
that.
There's a place for it, and there's a place for AI. It's got to be wielded right.
Mm,
You can't. What? And I said this actually earlier today to a peer of mine. I said AI is a great tool, um, but bad AI is much worse than bad practical. It pulls you out way faster than a bad practical.
mm.
Um, and there's a part that you have to appreciate the effort. And we'll talk about appreciating the effort when we talk about the last broadcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
there's one huge spoiler I want to leave before we leave with you guys before we head to. I think we have a trailer reaction,
Hmm.
and it's the way spoiler his brother dies at the end. I think that is fantastic on two levels.
Wait, can you refresh me? How did he die?
So the contraption that's supposed to spring one of the traps in his stairway
Yeah.
when he's got his little fortress of solitude, whatnot. I forget what how it's referred to in the movie. And it's right when he gives him the hand pull back twice, trying to shake his hand, which I thought was great. And the two brothers are trying to reuniting.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it, I said it three times to myself. I said, okay, he's gonna die now. Well, he's gonna die now for sure because they just made amends, right? Because that's it has to happen. There's no other way around it. And the basically the bowling ball goes flying across the screen and smashes his face into the wall. And it says Lois on it. It's his mother's bowling ball. The whole reason he starts to monkey is to avenge his mother, and it's his mother's bowling ball that ends up killing him.
Yeah. The
But this is from the story of the monkey, and Hal is constantly hearing the monkey talk to him. And at
ah.
this point, and the monkey's always taunting him, like, "Who's gonna die next, Hal? Go ahead, turn my key. Who's next? Is it you? Is it your family? Is it this?" So he's taunting him in this moment right here, and he says, "There's been an explosion at the helicopter plant. What's that rising up into the sky? Like a big bloody bowling ball with eyes where the finger hole should be. Is it your mother's head?"
Oh, foretold in the book.
Right? And it's just, little things like that. So good on Osgood. This movie gets a huge recommendation from me.
No,
Um,
use the ghost rating. Use the ghost rating.
I'll use, well, it's patent pending. I know that.
That means you can still use it. That's why.
I'm gonna give it four ghosts. You know that?
Oh.
I'm gonna give it four ghosts because it's a lot of fun. Now, as a horror movie, it's probably a three ghoster.
Mhm.
But as entertainment wise, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm not going to disagree with you then on this one. Um, I love the sinister look of the monkey, and the monkey's so well done. When it grins, it looks genuinely creepy, and when it plays its tune, there's a sense of dread, but it's also a sense of anticipation as well. I like both of those feelings. Like, oh, someone's going to die, but who is it? We know the monkey doesn't kill the person who it's supposed to kill. So who is it? Oh, not who it's supposed to kill, the person that is being asked to kill. And that's why I actually I thought it goes a bit nuts at the end, like when the entire school bus gets wiped out. Unexpected, that bit.
I mean, I know we got to move on here, but
Yeah.
when he shows up, when the real estate agent is killed, and then it pans to the crime scene with police, and there are cheerleaders outside, like lavishing in this notoriety of these epic murders happening around town.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, let's do it. Go ahead. Let's make this a cult thing, especially in today's day where everything is overly sensationalized. Like,
Yeah.
go there. I love it.
Lyle's right. It's hard not to make them look creepy, and I think I would agree with you. If I ever saw
It's
one
true.
sitting in an antique shop, I probably would not even want to look at it at all for
Oh,
fear of me being its victim.
so check this out. The monkey from the book The Monkey is uses symbols, and it does a chang, chang, chang all throughout the book. It says
Mm.
chang, chang, chang. They had to use a monkey with drums because Disney owns the rights to the monkey with symbols from Toy Story.
Oh, Jesus.
The reason, though, the reason that monkey is in Toy Story is because one of the, I can't cite him, but somebody associated with the movie was a huge fan of the book The Monkey.
Oh,
So circle 360.
I hate Disney sometimes. Really do. I really do. All right,
And the drums worked.
shall we look at the trailer?
Yes, I'm dying to see this. I don't know what
Oh,
it is.
don't be no. Lower the expectation. Now, as always, these trailers are supplied by Lyle. Thank you so much, Lyle. Now, before we go into it, Lyle, I want you to see if you can guess which trailer I've potentially picked for this one. I can almost guarantee you're not going to guess which trailer it is. So what I might do then is put it on, and hopefully there's audio on this one. It is subtitled. I have to warn you, it is foreign. It is subtitled. So let's go.
Anh ơi, rảnh không?
Can you hear that?
Giúp em với.
Can you hear it? Yes.
Anh giúp chứ, anh giúp được mà.
Giờ mới thấy ở cái vùng mình mà có một vụ chấn động dữ vậy đó.
Never steal someone's toilet paper.
Tôi chết thảm lắm. Giúp tôi với. Cậu phải giúp nó. Nếu không, mọi người sẽ gặp nguy hiểm.
Giúp ai?
Mà không đâu.
Từ lúc mà mình mang cái xác về đây á, là có mấy chuyện nó hỏng bình thường.
Tôi chết thảm lắm. Giúp
tôi với.
Nhớ miệng nha.
Là sao?
Là an toàn.
Sao mày không nói tiếng người đi, mày sủa tiếng chó làm chi vậy?
Sợ ma đã biết tiếng em.
Tào lao quá. Mày bỏ tao ra được không? Tao với nãy giờ không tới luôn á.
Nó kéo má.
Không có ai hết, cô còn ở đây. Má đừng sợ gì hết nha má. Nếu các người có thể tìm được một bộ phận nữa thì ta sẽ làm phép để đánh cho nó hồn siêu phách tán. Cô lại!
Safe. That looks utterly awful. Utterly stupidly awful. What do you think?
I'm having a hard time determining if it's meant to be taking the piss or if it's meant to be chilling.
It's meant to be taking the piss. It is definitely a comedy horror.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
That's a lot of blood for corpses.
CGI blood too. Can we just say that the hated thing? So this is called. Look, I can't speak Vietnamese, so I don't know how to actually pronounce that. But it translates to "Find My Head." Is the title of this film. The duo, and I'm not even going to pretend to say their names, with their unusual professions of body retrieval and ambulance driving, promise endless laughter for the audience through their one-of-a-kind journey to find a missing corpse in Vietnamese cinema. With the help of a supernatural force, they not only face hilariously awkward situations, but also uncover chilling secrets hidden behind the bodies. Will they successfully complete this challenging mission, or will unexpected twists await them? Maybe I'll wait to watch this one. I'm not a fan of comedy horrors. What about you?
Depends. Some do it well. The monkey.
Yeah, but that's a
Fright
black
Night.
comedy. Yeah. I've got black comedy is great. Silly comedy. Like
Silly.
I like Scary Movie. That's great, but it's not a horror film. And a lot of Asian humor doesn't translate well, which means that there's going to be a lot of slapstick in this, a lot of screaming that is really not going to translate well. Now, a lot of this is done for censorship. Vietnamese cinema is very censorious when it comes to horror films. Not as bad as Chinese, but a lot of the times the horror is toned down to comedy to kind of get it past the censor. So that's most likely why they've gone down this angle. But if I could ever recommend a good Vietnamese horror film to you, there's two. There's The Sisters and there's Kuman Thong. That would be the two I would ever recommend to you. And even the Kuman Thong is heavily edited from what should be its proper release. So have you seen Vietnamese cinema, horror cinema?
You mentioned The Sisters. That's Cam.
Cam, yep.
I am dying to see that movie. I've been deliberately avoiding your review of that movie because when you showed us the trailer, I was pulled into that. But it's not available. It's not available to view it anywhere.
Not yet. Still doing theatrical runs around the world. So yes.
Good for it. Amazing.
Yeah. Same with Vina.
They
There's
look
a
solid.
movie called Vina from Indonesia that came out about a year and 2 months ago. That is a top grossing horror movie in Indonesia. That because they keep showing it throughout the world, it's not available in streaming anywhere. So they're really trying to tackle the piracy thing. Anyway, Lyle's leaving us with a very bad pun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lyle. And thank you for supplying this trailer. Lyle always sends me probably about 24 a week. And I'm sure by the time we do our next show, we'll have a better one to look at. Promise you. Okay, now we're on to the final segment of the evening, which is another discussion about what I consider to be probably the great uncle of found footage movies. It is The Last Broadcast, which came out around a year or so before the Blair Witch Project. And I watched this on a recommendation from yourself and one of your friends who recommended that I watch this. And I did, found it, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm actually not going to lie. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And the reason why is because it's not just a found footage movie. It's a mockumentary as well as a found footage movie with a couple of filmed scenes as well, which I kind of breaks the immersion towards the end when there's a couple of just filmed scenes, but still it's great. Give me a quick opinion on it, and then I will give a proper synopsis of what the film's about.
So maybe synopsis first.
Okay.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you my first impression of it was I appreciate the effort, and there's some things that I really liked about it, and you've already touched upon the one thing that I didn't like about it, which is unfortunate, which was the use of when they broke away from using the camera when it peeled away from the found footage and it went to conventional movie filming. But it felt like they were also still trying to pull you back into that first person perspective and then pull you out of it. And I didn't find the sequence gripping enough to warrant having to have done that. I felt that I think it cheapened the entire what it was going for and what it was delivering.
So I said that you were going to provide the synopsis for this one. So your turn.
Bristling with equipment, two enthusiastic local access cable TV producers recruit an assistant and venture into a forest in search of the mythical and horrifying Jersey Devil. Days later, only two of the trio emerges. He becomes the prime suspect in the disappearance of the other two. However, a local filmmaker examines extensive found footage, found at the scene, and arrives at a different conclusion. And the show is Fact or Fiction, which was a fictitious show made for the show. The two producers, creators of the film, Both star as the co-host for Factor Fiction, Stefan Avalos and Lance Weiler. Jim Stewart is the sort of fictional scapegoat, as it turns out to be, for performing his horrific murders in the woods. And the movie begins with the filmmaker, an actor, but he's pretending to be the filmmaker, David Beard, and he narrates pretty much throughout the whole movie. So I'd like to hear from you, Dan. What you've enjoyed this movie. I want to hear what you really liked about it.
So I'm a sucker for world building in movies. And I think that the first half an hour or so of this movie does it really well by showing us the fact or fiction crew, by showing us their show, by showing us the people who work behind the scenes. The guy who says, had delusions of grandeur, that he was bigger than he was. There was another guy the IT tech support guy who gives like a really great running commentary throughout it. There's the police officer who's absolutely determined that Jim Stewart is guilty, no questions about it. And when you get those kind of stories that intercut with that found footage that we see, I really like the way that it builds up this whole story that, Jim's this crazy, psycho, horrible guy that snapped and killed two of his friends and the other one went missing. What I then liked was that at the halfway point, the movie director goes, you know what? I'm going to tell you the actual truth of what happened. It doesn't say it like that, but that's what happens. We were introduced to this edited video that was presented to the jury that convicted Jim of 2 life sentences. And then a mysterious tape is sent to the filmmaker that is in terrible condition, so that he gets this digital media expert. And it's really good when you think about it. 1998, 97, these kind of job types, just what's involved in reconstructing magnetic videotape, it's a hell of a job. And then we follow this lady's process as she puts this tape together to find the truth. Now, I probably got the movie about a minute before it did the reveal. When it slowly faded in who that image was on the tape, I sat there and thought, hold on, that's the documentary guy, right? And then, of course, a minute later, we find out it is him. I love the idea, spoiler obviously, that the guy who orchestrated the whole thing is the guy making the documentary about it. That whole meta idea was what I fell in love with at the end. It was the same moment as when I first watched Saw and the body in the middle of the room wakes up. And I'm like, holy that was fucking good. I had that same moment with this where, holy crap, we've been played as an audience throughout the entire movie, and I like it. That's what I really liked about it. And when you and I and your friend discussed last week about found footage movies and how they've gotten very lazy lately. But when the genre first came out, they were creative. The Blair Witch Project, right? And then we talked about Paranormal Activity. They had purpose. They had reason for wanting to be that foot. They weren't just a couple of idiots with their mobile phones filming stuff and then we'll put it together and there's a horror film. This was that. It was the mockumentary, the found footage coming together to then go to the audience. You've been tricked throughout the whole way through. And I like it. That's what I really liked.
I agree with the effort and the approach to this movie. I mean, first of all, the movie was made on a budget of $900. I mean, even judging for inflation from 1997, that's low.
That's insane.
And this is something else that I really could appreciate about it. It said because the film was not shot on film stock, the screenings were arranged to select theaters via satellite streaming because they probably didn't have the equipment that they could bring the film there and match it to their projectors.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's just like all that stuff is great. Now it only filmed in US $12,000, but that's obviously a huge win. Um, Apparently it went worldwide. Since then has been over 4 million, but good on it. Um, I will tell you, and this is unfortunate because this did not set me up well for the twist because as I was watching this proceed, I found myself annoyed and I thought it was a miss that it was being narrated. And I felt
Okay.
like it was being explained to us every step of the way what was going on. Now I understand it was being filmed from a documentary and type of perspective. But then it doesn't if you put the whole movie together after you've already seen it, it doesn't make sense at all either. Like who's this audience? Himself clearly, but when we're watching, like as I'm listening to him, it was just over. I felt, oh, it's funny. It's an overproduced mockumentary because I'm like, yeah, no, I know that they're joking. Okay, no, I can hear their conversation. No, I can see what she's doing now. You don't have to explain every single thing that's on the screen for us. And which is kind of funny to think about it because he's making this for himself type of
Hmm.
thing. But throughout the movie, I found it grating.
Okay.
But and then when it peeled away and it was showing the face, and you kind of knew when it was going to be revealed it was him. I was really at some point when I showed that face early on, I'm like, oh, this is a demon face. I'm like, yeah, give me something. So part of it, and this unfortunately is something that affects many moviegoers, and I'm susceptible to it as well. When you arrive at a certain expectation, and then the movie can either when it subverts it or it pulls you in a different way, that can either leave you with a house surprise moment or a kind of oh, I was kind of hoping it's going to be this. And I kind of found myself on the latter part of that,
Wow.
which is kind of on me a little bit because that's, I formulated an expectation that I probably shouldn't have as I was watching it, but
Yeah.
that's how I viewed the movie. That's how it was presented to me.
And that's
So I
awesome
think
that
I was
you
a
and
little
I
disappointed
saw
it
that
wasn't
different.
supernatural.
Well, it's awesome that you and I saw that different because my hatred of found footage movies, so my expectation was already pretty low. Lyle made an interesting comment there about the opening scene gave a feel for those cheap local TV broadcasts. That's not a thing in Australia. We don't have we have community TV, but it's not popular. So that the concept that as an Australian looking at this movie that you could build an audience on local access television to do something like this, like that's exciting to me to look at something like that. And the fact that these guys had this wacky show where they would do stuff and the card tricks and all that kind of stuff, I felt that there was a real world, which is something that we discussed last week about the Blair Witch Project, the real world behind it. I felt that this movie had the real world and that this director, this documentary filmmaker, was desperate to be a part of that world, but he couldn't be a part of it. So he found a way to do it by infiltrating that IRC chat, by leaving them a comment about the Jersey Devil, by planting that idea in their head that they should go out in the forest, and then he could reenact what he wanted to do to, like you said, did he want to be famous or did he just do it for himself so he can make this little video for himself and watch every year and laugh about how he got an innocent man thrown in jail for 2 life sentences. I didn't like that we had to break the found footage section to show him disposing of the woman who discovered it was him. That was the grading bit where all of a sudden we've got stationary cameras, we've got set shots. I didn't like that. There's no other real way to do it though. Like we've seen with movies like Incantation, where she moves the laptop to show her washing her face in the bathroom, and you just think, oh, that's just dumb. Like
What if he walks in with the camera to see, and then you just see a cutscene with him driving away, and then the camera, he pans back and you see her rolled up inside the plastic. Like, how chilling would that have been?
And that works. That works in that effect. You're right. That does work in that effect. It was clear that they didn't want to do that though. These guys wanted to show.
They wanted to show They wanted to show his brutality on display.
Yeah,
it didn't. I didn't think it was effective.
And that's fair enough. And I think I actually agree with you. I that's the bit of the movie I lost. It lost me as well, but I still really enjoyed the film. Mm-hmm. I actually also. I understood that it was low budget. I understood that it was probably just a bunch of friends getting together. What I enjoyed was the natural way that those interviews were shown on screen. Like, for example, if you and me were just talking, we're not scripted right now. So we and ah, we think about what we're saying for a moment. It's hard to act that. It has to be natural. But these guys were reading off a script. They knew what they had to say, but then they had to act as if being natural on the screen. And I really liked that element of it. And that was more specific with the, I'm pretty sure he wasn't the editor guy who had to put the video together, but there was one particular character. No, he was the tech guy. He was just really good. He sold the role to me where, he was just kind of laid back, casual. Every time he thought about something, it was, yeah, I liked having to do that. Now, I do have one question for you, and this is a kind of what threw me out a bit. Now, I'm being unfamiliar with the technology at the time, which is really weird because I was 21 at the time. They were live chatting while in the middle of a forest. How are they doing that?
Geez. That was, I wasn't, yeah. I don't know. I had a pager back then, so I'm not really quite sure.
And additionally, how were they doing a satellite uplink? Because I don't recall seeing even a mini satellite uplink being set up. So
they had some equipment there, but I saw it was mostly like lighting and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there was a technical element to me that quite didn't grasp it, and they wanted to also stream their show on the internet as well at the same time, which I thought, for 1998, 97, that was a rather ambitious thing to do. So there were a couple bits that I thought didn't quite match, but when you look at it from a 2025 perspective, it all makes sense. Like you just
that's funny that that's funny that kind of threw you off. You were thinking about that.
Well, so this is the annoying part about me, is that because I studied film in university, unfortunately I look at things like that and not at the other things. Like you would see in Monkey, you saw the burn mark on the roof. Mm-hmm. I would sit there and go, how did they just blow that woman up? Sure. That's my thinking. So this is why funny. You and me talking about these movies, we're bringing two very different perspectives to this whole thing. And so,
I love it. I don't want to agree on everything by all means.
Beautiful. But all I could think of was this technical element behind the film that you wanted to stream on television and on the internet at the same time with 1990s technology. And I don't see any of it around. Plus you're using batteries like a bastard. Where's all your videotape backups? You're using VHSs instead of, high 8 tapes, which high 8 tapes would have been far better to use. So what the hell's going on here?
Oh, good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew how to set the timer in my VCR. I was probably as technically savvy as I was. I chose my roommate in college because he had a computer. But no, man, I was in fraternity and played football. I wasn't into the technical stuff.
Now, Lyle, I think this comment's a little bit unfair towards the movie because that's just my stupid brain thinking that way, right? And you're right. Sometimes you can roll away and go, that's unrealistic. But as I said, someone watching this movie in 2025 might not understand the technology that was available in the late 1990s to make some of the stuff that they were proposing utterly unfeasible.
there are things also that will happen in a movie, even a movie that I'm enjoying, that they will stick in my ribs. Something that I'll say, like especially like a red herring,
Hmm.
when it has no place whatsoever being in that movie. Um, I have a couple of examples but I'm not gonna go into a diatribe about it. But I don't disagree with you, Lyle, because the movie can still be very, very good and have sticky points in it that but that's okay. Um, a movie I find, as long as I've been entertained and as long as it stayed true to what it was, if it wanted to be a goof, it was consistent, I'm good with it. If it wants to be scary, then keep me immersed.
Right. Well,
Um,
I think then I'm the one that has to rate this movie then, because I let you rate the monkey. So using the patent pending ghost rating, which does stand for great horror or stupid trash, the Arty Dans will award this movie 3 ghosts out of 5 for being one of the only found footage movies that the Arty Dans has enjoyed, but still having a couple of slight issues that stop him from thinking that it is a 4-star movie. There will never, ever, ever be a 5 ghost found footage movie. Ever.
Amen. Right, it can't be. I always feel like you should come up with a different rating for found footage, so it could stand on its own. Knowing that,
See, the reason Ghost worked is because I actually could turn it into an acronym that made sense.
yeah, but have like a found like have like a poop meter for found footage, where
Oh yeah, I'm cool with that.
the less poops, the better.
Well, there's a
Uh,
challenge to you filmmakers. Less pooping found footage movies, the better. Ned, we're approaching the 1 hour mark of our
mhm.
lovely inaugural show. I've had an absolute ball with you this morning / this evening.
Yeah, man.
Because just to
Yeah, it's
reiterate,
been
it's
a trip.
almost lunchtime here in Melbourne, Australia. But it's probably bedtime for when Ned it is.
It's probably time for me to see where I can find long legs. And I'll probably put that on before I turn in for the night. But before we go, I want
Mm.
to know what your homework for me is, because I have a movie that I'm going to require you to watch.
Shit. You go first, and then I'll give you one.
I have 2 movies that I'm itching for you to see, that I'm itching to talk to you about.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you one. Well, I'm going to let you do. Do you want a more recent one, or do you want one that's a little bit further back?
Further back.
Okay. This is the one I was going to give you anyways. It is is it Spanish or Italian? Oh my goodness. I think it's Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Dead air, Ned. This is not good. Can't have dead air on a live show.
Oh, let people wonder. It's called Day of the Beast.
Oh,
Um,
yep.
and it's 1995, I think.
All right, beautiful.
1995. Oh, I got it. And it is what language is in it? It's subtitled either way.
Beautiful.
But
Well then,
I really I don't want to kind of tell you anything about it. And even the synopsis will kind of make it a little bit spoilery. So I almost want you to go in it totally cold. It is Spanish.
well, I want to return the favor to you with subtitles, and I'm on the fence. Definitely going to be Chinese because I'm determined to show people that not all Chinese horror movies are crap, right? And I'm on the fence because there's a found footage movie that's actually really decent, and there's also a kind of horror movie that turns into a thriller that I actually really liked. So which one do you want? But please don't pick the found footage one.
I'm gonna say, are you gonna give me a found footage Chinese movie?
It's actually really good, trust me. But we'll save that for later. The movie I'm going to give you, and I'll have to provide this to you later, it's from 2014, and it's called Haunted Road. Right?
Okay.
And I actually thought it was, when you understand the constraints of Chinese horror cinema, I actually thought this was a half decent film. So I will provide that to you during the week.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I will also look for this film. I
You
want
get
to
it on
say,
Prime.
sorry,
You have Amazon Prime?
I may have.
Okay.
Uh,
Find a way.
yes. I want to say thank you for everyone who's tuned in. We've had quite a few viewers popping in and out during the show, but of course, Lyle has hung around for the entire show. So thank you, as always, Lyle, for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. Ned, thank you so much for joining me on this wacky journey. We are calling, at this moment, we're calling it Shockmania Live, but we will come up with a new name. And hopefully, you will give me permission to use your face on the thumbnail very soon. Otherwise, you'll just be the mysterious man in a beautiful suit. Was the mask at least good? Which question's that one for? Oh, I know what he's talking about. Chinese horror movies always have masks. No, Lyle, there's no mask in this movie, okay? We will probably reconvene in perhaps a couple of weeks just to give ourselves a bit of time to sort everything out. But I've had a ball. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. Leave a comment if you're watching a replay of this with anything that you'd like to tell us. And otherwise, I will sign off for the evening. Ned, have a great night.
Ciao.
And I'll do this bit where I awkwardly end the stream, but you don't really know it.